Good evening, and welcome to the Sykesville Town Council Candidates Forum. I'm Charles Harrison, Chair of the Community Media Center Board of Directors. Tonight's forum is being held at the Sykesville Town Hall, and this program is being recorded and will air again live on channels 19 and 23, and our brand new HD channel 1086. The CMC is partnering with the Carroll County Times to present this presentation and this forum as a community issue, as a community effort. We encourage residents to take an active part in the community by teaming up and learning more about the candidates, what they represent, and by voting on election day. I will now turn this event over to our moderator for this evening, Mr. Steve Enslow.
Steve. Thanks, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Sykesville Candidate Forum. I am Steve Enslow, and I'm not a moderator, but I do play one on TV. So you're stuck with me tonight and these four fine candidates, all vying for 3 positions on our town council. This forum is being held for you all, the residents of the town, to ask questions of the candidates running for the 3 council member positions. The election will be held on Tuesday, May 7th. It starts at 8 a.m. and the polls close at 8 p.m. All registered voters in the town of Sykesville should be voting for the candidates on this panel. So do your civic duty and get out to vote if you are so registered. This evening's forum is being held here at the Sykesville Townhouse. The program is being streamed live on the Community Media Center's website at www.carrollmediacenter.org. It will be rebroadcast on cable channel 2319 and the new high-def channel 1086. It's also being streamed live tonight on the town's Facebook page. Because the forum is being recorded, we ask that everyone turn off their cell phones. Oh, sorry, I forgot mine. There we go. Yes, cell phone off. And turn off their cell phones, and the attendees refrain from applause, making noise during the forum, or during doing anything visibly or audibly to express support or opposition to any candidate during the event. Of course, you folks at home, be as loud as you want. Just here, we need to keep her quiet. We've asked the audience to write some questions down, and if time permits, at the end of our question and answer, we will ask some of the questions that have come from the audience tonight. And we have already received a few of those. We're going to start this evening by introducing each of the candidates to you. They'll have an introduction, and after the introduction, 2-minute introduction, they'll have opening statement, and then we'll get right down to it. I'm going to list all the candidates first, and I'll go back and allow them time for their opening statement. First is Anna Carter. To her right, Mark Dyer. To his right, Jane Mergler. And to her right and my left, Jeremiah Schofeld. So, Anna, would you like to make the first opening statement?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Carter. I am currently on the town council. I've been on the town council since 2013. I've been a town resident since 2010 and a Carroll County resident since 2000. I love this town. It's amazing. As soon as I moved here, I knew I wanted to participate with the growth and the energy that this town could have and has had, and I am excited to be part of it, along with a lot of the changes that were positive, and I hope to be continuing with that.
Thank you, Anna. Now to Mr. Mark Dyer.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of tonight's events and everyone who came out. My name is Mark Dyer. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and moved here in 1979 to work for the Defense Department as a computer scientist after I graduated from Michigan State. A lot has happened since then. I got married and had 2 wonderful daughters, and we raised them here in Sykesville. We moved here in 1996. I have always wanted to get involved in town politics, but I was working, as I said, for the federal government. I retired in 2017 with almost 39 years of experience as a computer scientist and as a manager. I did I did team leadership, I did project management, I did branch management. I've even risen to the position of division chief of a division within the agency that I worked for. But I'm here to talk about what we can do in our town. I think our town is well-run. I think it's well-managed. I think both the elected people as well as the volunteers are doing a great job. And what I'm trying to do is get on the council to continue what is already in effect, keep it going as it is. If you agree with me that the town is on the right track, I ask you to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. Jane?
Thank you. I'm Jane Mergler, and I appreciate this opportunity to be a candidate for a position on the town council and share a few thoughts with you about how I think our town can be even better than it is today. We're very lucky in Sykesville. We have a pool of very talented and smart people who are already on the board. We have Anna and Jeremiah. You sit on the planning council, as does Steve. And there are many, many more people, some of whom are sitting in the audience. And there are many people who are supporting the town of Sykesville from the business community. So we have a very, very deep bench of talent. But I believe Sykesville is at a crossroads. For the past 9+ years, we've had a period of economic renaissance, low interest rates, a lot of money available to developers, et cetera. And I think the situations often change. And I think Sykesville needs to prepare for that change. And that's why we need a very talented town board. And I think no matter who people vote for, we're going to have that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Jeremiah?
Good evening, everyone. I also want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, as well as those that are tuning in, either now or future broadcasts. My name is Jeremiah Conrad Schofield, and I'm also asking for your vote for Town Council on May 7th. I've lived in the town of Sykesville since 2011, and I've been volunteering with the Planning Commission for the last couple of years. There's a few reasons why I want to serve on the Town Council. One of them is a personal reason. During the last election cycle, if you heard, I ran for Town Council as well, but in the larger election cycle, it actually lit a fire in me to be more involved with my local community government. And as such, I ran for Town Council and then eventually was appointed to the Planning Commission, where we've done a lot of tremendous activity over that period of time. There's professional skills that I think I also bring that are somewhat unique. As a subject matter expert, a manager, and an executive within the federal government, I've done a host of different eclectic, very different types of experiences over my almost 19-year career. I've worked in emergency management and facilities management, construction management, project management. I've helped the agency implement legislation. We've worked through policy reform. One of the things I did was run a headquarters campus in a very similar role as a town manager. And with that, I believe I can bring those skills to this experience as we move forward. Thank you.
Jeremiah, thank you so much. Great qualifications, each of the candidates. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Here's the format for tonight's forum. I'll ask the candidates a series of questions. These are a mix of pre-prepared questions as well as those we've received tonight from the audience. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. All candidates will answer the identical question. I will then open questions to the audience. Again, I've received those already in writing. If there are any more, please address them, and we'll get those at some point during the evening. And if we have time, we'll get to ask those. At the conclusion of the question and answer period, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a summary statement. We'll be timing the responses, and we'll signal when your time is run out. If a candidate goes over the allotted amount of time, there will be a penalty that the candidate will refrain from answering the next question. So please try to keep your answers concise, but you do have 2 minutes, and again, you'll be able to see in the audience when the time is up. With no further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the questions. As I'd mentioned earlier, I will be going and sort of jumping around with who starts the question and answers on each question. With the first question, what are the top 3 priorities you see for the town, and how would you address them? And I'm going to start here with Jeremiah.
Thanks, Steve. So I think the three top priorities for me is that I think that we need to hire a very strong candidate for our town manager position. We need to do what we can to keep vibrant Main Street, and we need to continue to have safe neighborhoods where there's good connectivity between where the residents are and with Main Street. Those are three top priorities for me. In terms of a person for the town manager position, one of the things that in my going out and campaigning this season and in the last season, I don't think that residents are always 100% aware of what's going on within the town, and I think there can be better communication between the town and local businesses in the community. The person that we hire for this job is absolutely integral in order to be able to forge a positive exchange between both local businesses and residents in the community. In terms of a vibrant Main Street, there's a lot of effort that's going on in reference to this. I think we do have a vibrant Main Street today, but I do think that there needs to be this open, transparent dialogue going on between what the town agenda is, what the concerns are within the community, both from local businesses as well as from town residents, and there needs to be a partnership that's actually built between those three groups in order to see our current success actually continue. If you don't do anything different in order to move forward, then actually you're going to see something start to regress. And so one of the things that I believe in is continued improvement. In order to have that continued improvement continue, we need to have good, open, transparent communication between those three entities, because those three entities are what make this town so great. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And Jane, we'll come to you next. Same question. What are the top three priorities you see for the town, and how would you address them?
Okay, thank you. I became interested in this opportunity because of the lack of safe walking routes down to the downtown and to the school, middle school here in Sykesville. So one of the priorities I think that we need to fix is having safe and enjoyable walking routes to those areas, particularly to the neighborhood schools. I have seen our students walk over busted pavement and through brownfields with all kinds of debris around, so that's a priority. Next, I think in the face of extreme weather events, which we've seen our communities like Ellicott City deal with in 2016 and 2018, I think we need to give priority to ensuring that we have the best preparedness plans for flood emergencies that are possible. And we need it not only for the residents, but we need it for the businesses on Main Street, which are very vulnerable to flooding. I also believe that although we have a robust rainy day fund, we can do better. Again, if there is revenue volatility, we need a cushion to ride out an economic downturn. And lastly, since I'm running out of time, I'm a strong advocate for more green spaces, and I would like to promote a low-carbon economy here in Sykesville. Thank you.
Great, Jane, thank you so much. Mark, we're going to you next. What are the top three priorities you see for the town, and how would you address them?
The first thing I would do is manage growth responsibly. This is by far the most important priority. It is not the most urgent, but it is the most important. An example would be parking in the Warfield properties, integrating properly into downtown. So I'm going to give you a priority, and I may give you an example of them. Number two would be staffing and staff retention. We need to hire a town manager. We were very lucky to have the one we had, and I don't blame her for making a decision that supports her family. But we need to find a replacement. She is the captain of this team. We kind of give, the board would give direction, but she's the one who would, he or she would be the one who would do it on a daily basis. We need someone who would be here. I know that if you don't have a rudder, the ship gets a little wobbly, and that can cause staffing retention problems. And my third priority would be ensure taxes are spent wisely. This is something that should be part and parcel of everything we do. Whether we're growing an area, whether we're spending money or not spending money, how we do it should be done in a tax-efficient and responsible manner. Growth is inevitable, but we need to do it wisely.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. Anna, to you, what are the top 3 priorities you see for the town, and how would you address them?
My top priority is to hire a new town manager. I was part of the process to hire our last town manager, and it seemed like it went smoothly. It was very informative. We all had a lot of say and input, and I was excited that we hired the best candidate. She was an asset to the town, and I hope that we follow those same steps so we can hire another town manager that will fill in her shoes and move the town forward in the direction that we see. My second priority is updating our master plan. As everybody had mentioned variously, that the town is moving forward, we're growing. We have an outdated master plan, which would provide us direction as to how the town should be growing, and we need to get that updated. We have plans in the future, and we have it in our budget, and I'd just like to see that through fruition. And the last priority is to complete our sidewalk ordinance. We have started a process, and we have agreed that there's funding there, and the town has decided that we will take responsibility for maintaining, and we just need to have it written and put into place. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All good answers to question number 1. We'll go right to question number 2 now. What are your thoughts, vision for the future of Sykesville? We'll start this question with Jane.
Okay, thank you. Boy, this is an easy one, telling the future. So actually, I kind of have a vision for Sykesville 2030. And that vision is very much rooted in a low-carbon economy. And what that would entail is working with the staff of the town and all the other expert planners and town council members to develop an energy master plan for Sykesville, for all the buildings that it owns, the town owns, with the aim of moving towards 100% renewables by the year 2030. And conducting that or developing that master plan would also involve working with the town staff to ensure that they understand and embrace what it means to be low carbon economy. And we'd also have to work with the county and the region to see how our plans would fit with theirs so that we can leverage each other's energies and ideas. And there's also opportunities regarding the financial challenges. There are upfront costs for on-site solar, et cetera, but we have the expertise to negotiate contracts. We have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of depth of knowledge. So we can do this, and that's my vision for Sykesville 2030. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Jane. Jeremiah, what are your thoughts and visions for the future of Sykesville?
So what I would like to see is I'd like to see Sykesville continue to build on its nature of being a marquee destination within the state. I kind of see this vision where you have people from different parts of the state that are pretty far away, and they're like, where do I want to go this weekend? I want to go to the coolest town, the coolest small town in America, and that's Sykesville. In order to get there, what do we need to see? We need to see a vibrant Main Street with local, thriving business. We need to see an eclectic mix of complementary business. This is an important thing as we go through the development of Warfield. Whatever the retail shops are that go in there, whatever the commercial business that goes in there, the town needs to have a voice into advocacy to ensure that we see complementary businesses that are being put into that particular complex. We need informed and involved citizens. And so this is where I see you have groups of folks. You could have Eagle Scout projects. You could have high school students that need to provide community service hours, where the town is reaching out to these types of groups in order to have them more involved and more informed about what's going on. We need to continue to come up with great festivals and great town events. And we need to see enhanced connectivity between Main Street and the residents. And I mentioned that before, and I wasn't able to get back to that as one of the priorities. in order to, one of the things that I think that needs to happen is that connectivity. And as such, I volunteered to be on the Sykesville Connectivity Steering Committee, where we're actually putting together a plan to see sidewalks, pedestrian trails, hiking paths, and so forth actually built out for any future funds that become available through grants or other organizations in the future. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much. Anna, we're going to you next. Same question. What are your thoughts, vision for the future of Sykesville?
Almost as much as Jeremiah said. I'd like to see Sykesville as a destination. It's an amazing place as it is. I would love to see people want to come here because we are Sykesville, and we have unique shopping. We have outdoor activities. It's amazing that we are so close to a river that can provide so much entertainment. Our parks are amazing. Businesses down here, like I mentioned, are unique, and we offer things that not many places offer. So I want Sykesville to be a destination that people will know us as, wow, let's go to Sykesville, because nobody else is like that.
Great, thank you so much. Mark, same question. What are your thoughts, vision for the future of Sykesville?
Unlike everyone else here, I actually desire to continue on as we are in an incremental manner. I don't want to make great perturbations in our lives by having a lot of things guided by the town council. I would rather have the businesses work with us to come up with ideas they want, and we would support them. I think we're in good condition now. I think there is room for incremental growth, incremental service additions, incremental events. New things should come along, but they should come along organically. I am very distrustful of too much mandating, and I would rather see it continue to grow as it would like a plant, where it grows where it needs to grow, where the sun is. You know, I do agree that we need better walkability. I have heard a lot of people talking about that as I walk around asking, what do you think's going on? What do you think should happen? I hear that the sidewalks are an issue. I know that connecting with Warfield's an issue, but I would rather go to the people like the Downtown Connection and the people of Warfield and say, what can we do to help you? Rather than have the council say, we've come up with a great plan, here it is, I hope you like it, because it's going to happen whether you do or not. I may be in the minority on that, but I would rather let people come to us and say, I have an idea, than force something down their throats.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. That concludes the second question. We'll move on to question number 3. Are you aware of the local ethics ordinance, and do you foresee any conflicts of interest if you are elected, and how would you deal with them? A few questions in that one. We'll start with Anna.
Yes, I am aware of the Ethics Commission and the rules and regulations, and I don't feel that if I were reelected that it would cause any concern or issues.
And just sort of a sideways step here, elected officials as well as planning commission members must sign ethics forms. And if I'm not mistaken, town employees as well as all elected commissions?
Some town employees, yes.
Okay. So that just say there are ethics forms that are filled out for you and the general audience who aren't aware of that. Anna, thank you very much for sort of bringing that back up. Mark, I'm going to go to you next.
I'm acutely aware of
Thank you.
ethics violation conflict. I am a member of the Ethics Commission right now. If I were to become elected, I would resign immediately from the commission. We are very fortunate in this town that I have looked through those documents you speak of. And unlike some other communities in our state where the FBI comes to your house or you leave office, we're in good shape. And I assure you, I would never do anything, if elected, I would resign from the commission immediately to avoid any appearance of impropriety.
Great. Thank you so much. Jane, should I read the question again, or?
No, I understand. I have no conflicts whatsoever. I strongly believe in protecting the public's interest, and I place great value on ethical and honest behavior. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Jeremiah, same questions to you.
Thanks. From my perspective, I think that integrity is a foundation of leadership. If you don't have leaders with integrity within the town, all different things can happen. and my role as a manager and an executive in the government for the last almost 10 years, I've been filling out various types of ethical forms and going through this process. Right now, I am on the Planning Commission. I would need to resign my current role on the Planning Commission if I were elected for Town Council, and I would do so. There's also a role on the Planning Commission for a member of the Town Council, and I'm going to put my hand up and volunteer for that if I were to get elected, because I do really appreciate working with Steve and the other commissioners in that capacity. And on the steering committee that I'm in for the connectivity, the Sykesville Connectivity Steering Committee, that also has a town council member that's a part of that process. And again, I would be putting my hand up because those are things that are near and dear to my heart, making sure that Warfield is built in a certain way and that the town has input into that process, and ensuring that we're connecting our residents with Main Street. Those are both very important things that I'd like to see as we move forward. I do not have any conflicts. I filled out the forms, and no conflicts for me either. Thanks, Steve.
Great, thank you. It's all good to know. All right, we'll move on to question number 4. How do you feel about the current level of services that the town offers? We'll start this question with Mark.
I think the current level of service is excellent. I do believe there is, as I said previously, room for incremental improvements. One of the things that I would like to see, and I keep ringing the bell on, is battery recycling and general e-waste recycling. I believe that is something we could do, and I believe businesses may be anxious to get our precious metals and gold and all those things that are buried deep within our e-waste. But I would like to take the opportunity to make it clear. I think the town's doing a good job as it is. I think an excellent job, frankly. And any improvements would just make what's already a good situation even better. Again, cost, as I said in my opening remarks, cost is an important factor. We need to be sure whatever we do, it's done in a cost-efficient and non-wasteful manner. But I believe there's opportunities out there. We need to explore them. And if elected, I would be happy to work with them on those services.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Anna, to you.
I'm very proud at the level of services our town offers. We have an amazing police department and police officers that engage in community, walk the streets, know the residents, know the business owners. Very proud of that. We have an amazing public works department. They're out there collecting trash no matter what, just like the mountain people. Rain, sleet, snow, they're out there collecting your trash and your recycles. With recycling, we were able to save the town with our dumping fees, so I'd like to increase that service. Possibly, I believe that another council member had suggested that we do composting, so I'd like to help with that. And then lastly, we have an amazing staff here at the townhouse that makes sure that our vision is put through and guided and helps the community and answers questions. And I just think that we have such amazing staff that I'm very proud.
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to come to Jeremiah. How do you feel about the current level of services that the town offers?
Very similar to what's been said already. I mean, I think the town services in Sykesville are tremendous. Public Works, Police Department, the town staff, it's absolutely wonderful town to live in. I do think that working on the Planning Commission over the last year, again, going back to continued improvement, there's always little things that can happen about our overall processes to make things better. One of the things that we learned of on the Planning Commission was that residents or local businesses that wanted to do development projects within the community, that process wasn't as streamlined as it possibly could be, and there was some clarification that was needed in terms of the different documentation that was needed to be provided. What we did was we offered some suggestions to the town worked on some documentation, and the last couple of renovations or planning type development activities that have come through to us have been markedly better than when I joined about 2 years ago. Another area that's a little bit different than services, but something that I think is important to talk about, is that I do think that communication between the town through various marketing efforts and/or communication with local businesses needs to improve. We need those three entities working together, and I said this before, but it's really important that this is part of the reason why I'm here, is that those three entities working together equal sustained growth for the town as we continue, or sustained success as the town as we move into the future.
Great.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much. Jane?
Thank you. The town services are good. There's no question. The snow removal, trash, and recycling pickup. I guess the question is, as candidates, are we willing to broaden our views to look at the things that need to be worked on, the tough stuff? And everything that people have said here tonight, I can't disagree with. But we need to scratch that surface and look at the tough stuff that's going to require us to work beyond our comfort zones with the state, the county, to deal with tough issues like stormwater, drainage, et cetera. And I think then we can say that we're truly improving. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Great answers, all of you. We're going to move to question number 5. What is your assessment of downtown parking needs, and how would you address these needs? Jeremiah, let's start with you.
A nice, easy question, Steve. That's very appreciated.
Thank you.
Downtown parking is a real issue, definitely during various town events and festivals that the town has. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of room to grow downtown in terms of where else is there to build parking. I was at a public hearing not that long ago where someone suggested building a parking garage, and a lot of people were not real happy with that particular suggestion, myself included. That's not something that I think we need to do. I've been talking a lot about communication. There is tremendous number of resources, as Jane has said a couple of times, inside the town. This is a type of issue where we had a public hearing about what to do with a building. I'd like to see a public hearing about what to do with parking. What do the residents think? Are the residents willing to work with the town? Are the businesses willing to work differently with the town? These are the types of issues that I think would be very valuable to have open, transparent dialogue, and that's something that I think I can add value if I'm elected to town council. One other thing that I think is important is that the town has agreed to build in a parklet later this year, and that's going to affect 4 different parking spots. It's a quick turnaround. It's a little bit of a study. It's going to last maybe a couple of months in length during the summertime, and it's a great little thing. And I have no issues with building out a parklet, but I do have an issue if the town takes away parking, and an issue where their parking is a real issue, and there's no impact studies that are completed, and there weren't any impact studies that were completed. With my experience working with facilities and construction management and so forth, I bring that to the table where I'm thinking through those types of studies that are needed so that folks are impacted in the best way. Thanks, Steve.
Great, thank you very much. Anna, what is your assessment of downtown parking's needs, and how would you address the needs?
Well, currently, we have 5 parking lots in town. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of that, and it might not be convenient, but we do have 5 parking lots. We recently just purchased another lot, and the thought was for economic growth, but that's stagnant because of some issues. So we have recently striped those and gained 60 parking spots. And there is a possibility of removing the building on that existing lot and gaining an additional 30. So at this point, the town has seen that there is an issue. We've tried to address the issue. Being that we are a small town with a small footprint, there's only so much that you can do. You can't create land. We just need to be creative in gaining parking.
And I'm going to ask a follow-up question. The town recently purchased a lot. What lot is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is the lot on Sandusky.
Okay.
It's the lot behind Beck's.
Got it.
Sorry.
Great. Thank you so much. Mark, what is your assessment of downtown parking needs, and how would you address these needs?
Well, as a retired person, I know that during the week, parking is not a problem, because I come down in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and I can always find one. The problem is events. Yes, event parking is the only problem we have, and from what I've seen, it can be a problem, and the extra parking spaces will go a long way to solve it. The comment was made, you can't make land. The only thing I could see even being possible is to look further out of an existing place and have a shuttle or something like that, or work with Howard County to get more spaces across the river. But unless we can figure out a way to make the cars float, we're stuck with what we've got. So I don't think it is as critical as it was. I'll give you guys credit for that. You did a great job on that. So I think we need to assess the need and then make incremental changes without running into the problem of, have you ever heard the concept of unintended consequences? If you've ever nailed a curved board in, you know what I mean. I've fixed the problem and I've created another one. I don't want to do that. I think what we've got is a long way to fixing that problem. Let's see what, if any, problems still remain now that we've got a new lot. And then maybe the idea of, as I said, perhaps a shuttle for big events. But most of the time, I think we're in good shape as we are. I keep coming back to that. I think we're in good shape.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Jane, same question to you. What is your assessment of downtown parking needs, and how would you address these needs?
Right, good question. I live just outside the historic district, so it gives me a nice opportunity to walk down Springfield to the downtown area, and if I'm lucky, the person who's walking with me can kind of walk behind me because the sidewalks are so narrow, but I digress. Clearly, we have to have a balance between convenience for the residents and the visitors, accessibility, and safety. I don't think we should do anything that would discourage the use of our downtown businesses. That may mean that we develop more parking. I don't think there's anything wrong with vertical spaces if they're designed attractively. And it doesn't mean that it always has to be free. It can be low cost, and I do mean low cost so that people are willing and happy to use it. With respect to the Warfield development, I think that's a great opportunity to use small and medium-sized electric buses to move residents between the two locations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Here's the question, I guess, tonight. It's going to put it right squarely on what you see as the needs for our town. In your opinion, what is the greatest challenge facing our town, and how do you plan to address that? Let's start with Anna.
Who would have thought that 10 years ago, Sykesville would be where we are today? It's amazing. We've grown, we've flourished, we have synergy down in downtown. But with that comes unknowns, comes parking issues, comes connectivity. So I am hoping that we find ways to address those issues and continue with the viability that Sykesville has to offer, and be creative, not just do the same old, think outside the box, and safeguard the growth that we have, but also continue the growth that we have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Jeremiah, in your opinion, what is the greatest challenge facing our town, and how do you plan to address it?
So I think I'm still on the growth topic as well. What I'm hearing in the campaign that I'm doing is that residents are nervous and concerned about, are we going to keep our small town feel, or are we not? Are we just going to keep doing more and more different growth activities? And if you look at the different planning commission notes that have happened over the last several months, there's several different possible developments that are out there that are being put on the table at the very least. There's one off of Schoolhouse Road. There's a possibility of having one over where you expand out for Raincliff. There's obviously Warfield going on. And then there's other ones, right? We had public hearings, 2 public hearings about what to do with the Sandusky property where we bought parking, but then we're talking about how do we actually use that property and do we actually sell it and give it back to businesses. I'm committed to a small town feel with balanced growth where we are looking at the infrastructural limits that we have within the community and we're moving forward in a measured way. So for instance, on the Schoolhouse Road property that we have, there are some major concerns along Oklahoma Road. There's also some major pinch points once you get down into the town in reference to that property. They're talking about 100 or so units, maybe 200 or 300 people being put in that location. And that by itself, without figuring out what to do with the roads, without figuring out what to do with the pinch point safety issues down in the town, those are major issues for this town. I want us to be a marquee location. We want people to come in, but we need to be very judicial about how we actually go about various growth. That's where I think communication with the residents and the local businesses is so key. We need to be in constant communication about how do we move forward. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Jane, in your opinion, what is the greatest challenge facing our town, and how do you plan to address it?
I think there are short and medium, long-term issues. In the short term, flood protection. We don't want to suffer the consequences of poor planning that Ellicott City had to deal with. In the medium term, I think we need to be concerned about revenue volatility. Everything is going to cost a little bit more year after year, and we have to go through those programs and make sure that we're getting the best deal for our taxpayers' money. In the longer term, I think we need to look towards smart growth that balances not only what our infrastructure can deal with, but also what the physical environment can deal with so that our children and our seniors are guaranteed clean water and clean air. So those are what I think are our challenges. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move on to the next question, number 7. How would you encourage business sustainability and growth in the town? Mark, did I get you on the last question?
No, you didn't. but-
I'm sorry about that. I just have
okay.
my notes here, and I apologize. We'll
Not
stay
a
on
problem.
number 6.
I was going to
My
go with the
apologies.
flow.
Go ahead, Mark. What's the greatest challenge facing our town?
You know I was going to be contentious. The word challenge implies different things to different people. The most urgent, of course, is hiring a town manager. But urgent does not necessarily mean important. So once we get a town manager, it's kind of one of those things. In this case, it's both. It's important, but it's urgent. We got to do that first. Then, once that's resolved, the long-term challenge, the thing that is always the hardest, is controlling growth. We've heard tonight about how much gas and how much brake the city should have. You know, should we go full out to grow, or should we slam on the brakes? And that's going to be hard to determine. That's going to require a lot of conversation, talking to a lot of people. But so urgent is a town manager. Most important is growth.
Great, thank you so much. And again, my apologies
Not
for
a problem.
almost missing that one. So now we'll move on to number 7. How would you encourage business sustainability and growth in the town? And Jane, we're going to take that one to you.
Wow. Okay. Another easy question. I think we need to step back a little bit and understand in a very deep way Sykesville's identity that is based very much in the farming community. I think we need to translate that into our future identity. There's no use on starting from scratch. We need to build on the very strong foundation that our families and farmers have provided us here. We have to understand what attracts people to the businesses that we have. And I think we have to embrace the opportunity to allow these businesses to evolve. We shouldn't put any constraints on them. We should support them so that they can be the best that they're able to be within their financial limits and staffing limits. So, I think we need to support these businesses. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Mark, coming to you. How would you encourage business sustainability and growth in the town?
I'll admit I don't know. I believe that the people of the downtown Sykesville connection and other groups need to be consulted. I don't know. I'm not on the board, and I am not a business owner. I'm not a prospective business owner. After 39 years in the government, federal government, I know that no one wanted us to show up and say, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to solve all your problems." The people who operate the businesses downtown know what their problems are. We need to go find out. We need to go ask questions. We need to talk to the people of Warfield. We need to talk to the citizens. For me, if I did get elected as a brand-new council member to come up with a grand plan, we'll probably fail. What I'd rather do is go to the people who do know, people on the ground, and say, what help do you need? What can we do for you? And then I could give you an answer. So I don't have an answer now. I would expect to get one by asking a lot of questions.
Great, thank you so much. Anna, coming to you, how would you encourage business sustainability and growth in the town?
Making sure that our economic development strategy is ready to address the current needs of our businesses. Like you had mentioned, we have a great opportunity over at Warfield. I know that businesses are coming over there, but we need to make sure that those businesses are complementary to our downtown. Downtown offers very unique shopping, boutiques, so we can't have the same thing over at Warfield, but we can develop Warfield to enhance what we have here in downtown. And that way, they complement each other. There'll be connectivity between the two. Here in downtown Sykesville, there's not much room to grow, but we have an opportunity to think outside the box to expand the footprint of businesses.
Great, thank you so much. And Jeremiah, coming to you, how would you encourage business sustainability and growth in the town?
I agree with some of the concepts that have been presented. In some of the discussions that I've had with local merchants so far through this campaign season, one of the things that I've heard is that the town has tried to reach out to the local businesses and create a dialogue with them about concerns, about ideas, about suggestions. I've also heard that the town is sometimes an obstacle for those businesses. And I've also heard that not all the time is the town actually having all the discussions that they originally committed to. And so that's what I think needs to happen. I think we have some great businesses down on Main Street, and they've got a lot of great ideas, and we need to figure out ways of removing some of the obstacles in order for them to be able to creatively do the little things that they want to be able to do, or the big things that they want to be able to do. And so it's one of those things that, again, it's a listening structure, kind of like what Mark said, where I think a lot of those ideas can be generated directly from the businesses. I also think, again, with what Anna said, is that whatever goes into Warfield needs to be a complementary business. In articles you might have read about Carroll County Dance Center and a brewery, it could come across that I'm against a brewery. I'm not against a brewery. I'm all for advocacy for local businesses in our community. And that's something I think the town needs to do too, right? The town needs to step up and have a role in being an advocate to say, hey, we need complementary businesses, not just whatever over at Warfield. Otherwise, Warfield could become the new Main Street. And that's not what's going to make this town as successful as it is. The businesses have really been a key factor in revitalizing what this looks like. And a lot of residents love that and want to come here and be a part of it and live in the community because of that. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We've got a question here I've been involved with for about many years. I've been on the Planning Commission, and certainly a large part of the future growth for our town from a limit standpoint, if you will. So here's the next question. What do you believe is the biggest challenge that the Warfield development currently faces? And we'll start this one with Mark.
I think the problem of how to tie the two entities together is something I don't yet know how to solve. I worry that it could bifurcate into them versus us, and we don't want that. We also, it was brought out, we don't want Warfield to become the new Sykesville. Again, I would turn to the, as I said before, I turn to the business owners as well as past business owners. I've actually spoken to a past business owner of our town and found out things that I'm trying to metabolize. We need to go out and ask a lot of questions and then make some suggestions and see how they fly. I am not prepared or able to give you if we turn this switch, the problem will go away. It's never that simple. There's a million switches and you have to turn each one of them a little bit or the sound won't sound right. But to summarize, we need to go out and ask questions about what do you think would be the best way, and then gin up some straw men and then try to implement them. And not being a member of the council yet, I can't tell you what I would do until I find out what's possible. But again, and lastly, in a cost-effective manner.
Great, thank you so much. Jane, coming to you, what do you believe is the biggest challenge that the Warfield development currently faces?
I had the privilege of attending a meeting last week, I believe, having to do with retail space. And one of the things we learned was that there's a surplus of retail space in the United States. So I am very, very concerned about plans of developing the historic buildings for retail use, not only because it competes with our downtown, well, but particularly because it competes with our downtown area. That is the backbone of our community, and I don't believe in developing additional space that actually is unneeded. We may need different types of retail in the existing structures around Sykesville and Eldersburg, but I don't see the sense of using the historic spaces, those buildings, for additional retail space. Thank you.
Point of clarification, I don't believe they are.
I was told that they would be.
Given the zoning on the properties.
No, I was told by the developer at that very same meeting that those historic buildings, his plan was to use them for retail space once they are appropriately cleaned up.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, to you.
Thanks, Steve. So for me, I think the biggest challenge with Warfield is taking care of the remediation and renovation of the dilapidated buildings that are over there. I think, folks, if you've gone by, you're starting to see some of the townhomes be built, and that's some folks have said that they don't really like that, right? They don't like how that's tearing away the fields and so forth, and I certainly understand that. It's a necessary thing to build those townhomes in order to generate the revenues necessary in order to do the renovations on the other historic properties there. But it's not going to provide enough funding to do all of those. And it takes a lot of money, multi-million dollars, for each one of those structures to be able to bring it back to a place where people can go and occupy it, whether it's retail, commercial office space, or other uses. And what I don't want to have happen is that we build out nice townhomes, but then we don't actually take care of the actual problem that we have that's over there. And so I think the town needs to keep a very close eye on how that kind of navigates forward. I also know the town is keeping a close eye on how that's navigating forward, but that's what I think the biggest problem is.
Great, thank you so much.
May I have 10 seconds, please? Is that allowable?
You had some more time, if the
so.
rest of the panelists are okay with that?
Sure.
I'd like to hear more.
Good, thank you. One of the concerns about the Warfield is that while the town is keeping a very close eye on the matter, the residents have no idea. Well, let's say they have a little bit of an idea of what the parameters are for that development, and maybe there's even some confusion on the part of some people in planning, since we're hearing different stories of what the the facility will be used for. And I propose that we have a one-page fact sheet prepared about all the facts and about the development and provided in the town newsletter.
Okay, thank you very much. 1, 2, 3. Anna, coming back to you.
Yes. Going back to what Jeremiah said, apparently he read my notes, because it was almost exactly. The cost to rehabilitate and renovate those historical buildings are going to be astronomical. The townhouses are supposed to supply some funding for the cost of that, grant funding, but it's just amazing the cost to renovate and have a building ready to move in for whatever use is needed. The last thing that I would like to see is all those beautiful townhouses built and they looking over and seeing a fence around the historical buildings because now they're unsafe and there's no money to make good on those. Sykesville is blessed to have such a historical feature in our town, and to have it just deteriorate is just not what I'm going to make sure happens.
Great, thank you so much. That concludes question number 8. However, we're still going to stay a little bit on Warfield with question number 9. Question is, what ideas would you promote to enhance the connectivity between downtown and Warfield? Anna, do you feel like fielding this one first?
Sure.
Thank you.
Connectivity, physically, I'd like to see maybe a shuttle of some sort, so people can just hop on a shuttle and go from Warfield to downtown or anywhere in town. Just a local Sykesville, takes you anywhere type of bus. Aside from physically connecting the two, I would like to see a point of interest in between Warfield and downtown, and the thought that our future would have Miller Cooper Park as our flagship park. It is right in the middle of the two, Warfield and downtown, so people can stop and play at the park, visit the Gatehouse Museum. The middle school's right there. So the connectivity between Warfield and downtown wouldn't seem so far away because there's points of interest in between.
Great, thank you so much. Mark, what ideas would you promote to enhance the connectivity between downtown and Warfield?
Well, I'm going to ignore my notes because I've heard just within the last few minutes that there seems to be a great disparity of opinion as to what's going to happen. We need to answer that before we can go any further. Yes, all we can do is somehow people move, shuttle, magically transport, float, whatever mechanism, get people between the two. But until we know what's going to go on over there, I also was of the opinion that it was going to be that businesses were going to go in there once rehabbed. This goes back to my point of I got a lot to learn. What I was originally being told and what I'm hearing are no longer in sync. So I'm not going to give you any Pollyanna predictions that I can solve a problem when I clearly don't have the right question answered yet. And I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Great, thank you so much. Jane, to you, what ideas would you promote to enhance connectivity between downtown and Warfield?
Okay. Well, there are different scenarios that we can imagine about Warfield, but let's pick the one that we're probably leaning towards, which is residences, either the townhomes that are being newly built or in the future partnering with the state and federal governments to obtain grants, cost share grants to clean up the historic buildings for residences. Assuming that scenario, I believe that we could again have the small electric shuttles, the small and medium-sized buses that are electric, more walkable sidewalks, and I think we can invite a public-private partnership that would have a small program of a bike share, like they do in other cities in this region. And I think those work very successfully, and they keep cars off the road. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And Jeremiah, lastly to you.
Thanks. And so for this one, I think there's a real risk with connectivity between Warfield and Sykesville. Warfield's being built as a work, play, live type of location, and so folks will be able to basically do almost everything that they need to do within that community. We need to be selling and over-communicating and marketing the joys that you get from Main Street to the residents that are moving in there from Jump Street. Right now, there are some of those lots that are actually up for sale. I noticed it online. I think they're up for sale for the last week or so. And so we need to be over-communicating to the potential residents that are there that says, hey, you need to come down to Sykesville Main Street because it is a flourishing center that's a marquee location within the state. That being said, I agree with a lot of the suggestions that are here. I've seen in big cities that they've got electric scooters, electric bicycles, and so forth. One of the problems with topography here in Sykesville is that there's a lot of hills. On the Connectivity Steering Committee, we're looking at sidewalks, we're looking at hiking trails, we're looking at bike trails. I've walked the dinky rail from a pump station down by the river all the way up through the woods to the location up by the old gas station across the street from Sykesville Middle. That could connect over to Cooper Park. But I don't think that all of our residents are going to be making that walk. And I don't think that all the residents would be making that bike ride because it's a big hill. I'm not sure I could actually make it up that hill myself. And so with that said, I support ideas like a bus, a trolley. It needs to be fiscally prudent though as we move forward. I mean, some of those solutions do cost a lot and there's some liability concerns that we have as well.
Great, thank you so much. On to question number 10, and I've already heard from all four candidates, as we have all had, that you all believe that making Sykesville more walkable is a desirable goal. So that is a given. Let's now ask, what do you do and what do you intend to do about it to make it more walkable? Jeremiah, coming to you first.
Yeah, so this is something that I actually campaigned on in 2017, and if you've gotten a campaign flyer from me this year, it's one of the little statements in there is that I believe in a town that's ready for bikes, hikes, parks, and pups. All of that deals with connectivity and walkability within the town. I'm proud to be on the Connectivity Steering Committee, so I volunteered to be on that group because this has been an issue that has been something that has been near and dear to my heart for at least the last couple of years. But one of the reasons we moved where we did is because there's all these different pathways that are all there. Problem is that they're not all connected together. And so what I think needs to happen is we need to finish the study that we're working on now. That'll be done towards the end of the summer, and then it'll come out for public comment. We're looking at different ideas, such as extending linear trail along the rail system into Sykesville. We're looking at the path from Autumn Sky down and trying to figure out a way to get down to Main Street. We're looking at the Dinky Rail, the old Dinky Rail system. That would require a lot of renovation. There's a lot of places on there that would present some significant renovation challenges. And so those are some of the ideas that we have. We're also looking at sidewalks. I actually met with a lady in reference to the sidewalks right across the street from the Sykesville Middle School. There's still major concerns there as well. So those types of issues all need to get into the study so that the town is best suited so that we can go out and ask for grant funding down the road to be able to pay for the various types of investments that we have.
Great, thank you so much, Jeremiah. Jane, we're coming to you next.
I would just like to state that everything that Jeremiah has said, I support, and I can't add anything to it at no value. Yeah.
That's perfect. All
I
right,
give back
Mark.
my time.
Will you yield your time to me?
Oh, my. Well, yes, as I said, I went out among people to campaign, and the idea of walkability was constantly being brought up. I see in the current budget as proposed, $64,060. That's excellent. We're gonna have to spend a little more if we do more, but I think it's worthy. There is no disagreement so far. We need to make more sidewalks and improve the ones we got. It's gonna cost money, and we need to do it in a prudent and fiscal manner. I yield my time.
Great. Thank you so much. Anna?
I concur with Jeremiah. We do have a study in place for professionals and vetted citizens to give input as to what the best source of connectivity would be throughout town. So we look forward to hearing what they suggest. As to what Mark said, the $64,000 in the budget is to repair the existing sidewalks and the ordinance that I had mentioned earlier this evening that we have in place where the town will take over the maintenance of sidewalks throughout town. So I'm excited about that. I have nothing more to add to that.
Great, thank you so much. It's good to see everybody kind of on the same page with this, including with the residents as well, and I think the current administration. So it is an important issue for the town of Sykesville and is recognized and, I guess, making strides to improve. We're going to go to the last question, the written questions we've all had a chance to review before we jump into the audience questions. This is a very simple question. We're going to start with you, Jane. Oh, thank you so much. Start with you, Jane. How many mayor and town council and/or town committee or commission meetings have you attended in the past year? If there's several different types, identify those types. This does not include any town events such as the wine festival or chili festival.
I have attended two town council meetings, and two committee meetings, the town's planning committee and the town's park and recreation committee, in person, not online. Those are in-person visits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark, going to you.
You know, I tried to calculate it, and as a computer scientist, it pains me to tell you I can't give you a specific answer. I'm going to give you a range between 12 and 25. I attend most, not every, but most town meetings. I attended Ethics Commission meetings. I've been to one planning commission, one historical district. I've been to everything but the Spark, and I know that's well-maintained. I have missed a few. I went to a wedding in Montana, and I make a trip to the Outer Banks. So I'm going to say, if you made me give you a single number, I'll say 18, but it may not be right.
Ballpark. Thank you very, very much. Anna?
Being that I am a current council person, I've attended all of the council meetings in the past year, and I am the council liaison to the Sykesville Parks and Rec. So we have 11 meetings in a year, and I've attended 10. So I can't add that very quickly, but that's what I did.
Great, thank you
30.
so much. Jeremiah, to you.
I've been to a couple of town council meetings, a couple of public hearing meetings, and the majority of the planning commission meetings over the last year. If I add all of that up, that comes up to approximately 15 meetings or so that I've been able to attend. I have missed a couple, as Mark has. There's been sickness in the family. One of the things that I deal with in my family is that one of my daughters has a disability, and sometimes that takes me away, and I have to spend time with her. Thanks, Steve.
Great, well, thank you so much. Great experience we all share up here. It's good to hear. We're now going to go into the audience questions. I've looked at all the questions. Some of these are very similar to other questions, so we may skip one or two of those. My guess, we're probably going to be right on time for what we had discussed earlier. So the first audience question today is, what are your thoughts on using town resources to subsidize local businesses? And Mark, I want to start with you on that question.
I'm inherently against that unless a compelling case can be made. I'm not a dogma kind of person who say, nope, never, never, never. But something like that would have to be extraordinary for me to agree to it. Because helping out a business sounds good, but not everyone may want that. Hypothetically, if a plebiscite was put forward and enough people said, yeah, this is a great idea, I would vote for it, but I'd be very careful of giving money that the town has collected to a business because in essence, it represents a very small group of people.
Okay, thank you very much. Jane, same question. What are your thoughts on using town resources to subsidize local businesses?
Actually, I take a different position than Mark, with all due respect. I believe if Google is able to obtain tax credits and different types of breaks, we should also be creative in offering something similar to community businesses. They are, after all, community businesses, and we all benefit from them. So it's not to be done lightly or without thought, but I am in support of helping our businesses thrive.
Great, thank you so much. Jeremiah, same question. What are your thoughts on using town resources to subsidize local businesses?
I mean, I've mentioned several times earlier tonight that I think that there needs to be a partnership between the town, local businesses, and residents. And I'm where Mark is in terms of actually providing funds to businesses, but I'm where Jane is in reference to what can the town do to help businesses overall. And so I think the town needs to be an advocate for local businesses. That takes resources. I think the town needs to do what it can to make this a marquee location for everyone in the state to want to come to. That takes resources. If we want to do a historic site somewhere and we want to make another rail type of thing and protect some things, that takes resources. All of those things take resources. All of it takes town staff time. And so to that end, I'm supportive of it, but it needs to, but I'm not supportive of actually redirecting town revenues directly into any particular local business's bank account. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Anna, same question. What are your thoughts on using town resources to subsidize local business?
Jeremiah read my notes again. I do believe that the town should offer resources, but not financial resources. Financial resources would be taxpayers' money, and it's not fair for taxpayers to have funds to spend their funds without their knowledge on one business. But the town should offer other types of resources, tax incentives and knowledge, help with being a liaison between the business and the county or the state with trying to open up a business. So I don't think that the town should say, no, we can't help at all. I think that we should say, what can we do to help you?
Great.
Could I have 10 seconds back? I agree. I did want to make clear, I'm talking about giving money, no, but I agree with everyone else here, I think. If the town can act as an advertisement vehicle, if it can liaison or make contacts, I'm all about that. I'm just saying tax dollars. I did want to clarify that.
Good. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that clarification. We'll now go to audience question number 2. Some of you may have touched on this in your opening statement, but we can bring it back here for just a second. How has your professional experience prepared you for the town council? And I'm going to start with you on this one.
My professional business is customer service. It's been customer service for over 30 years. And I think being an elected official, you have to be a customer service representative for my town, my residents, my business owners. What can I do to help you is my motto. What can we do? What is it that you need from me? And I think that with my customer service background, that gives me insight and compassion, sympathy, need.
Great. Thank you so much. Mark, how has your professional experience prepared you for the town council?
I don't know how many people in the room taken classes in negotiation and compromise. I don't know how many people have obtained certifications in leadership, and I have an advanced certification in acquisition. But I would ask this question: if you've ever met, and I am a nerd by birth, if you've ever been in a room of 50 nerds and got them to agree, if you don't know how hard that is, you do not know how powerful my mojo is.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jane, when it come to you, how has your professional experience prepared you for the town council?
Well, I worked for about 26 years with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers all over the country and the world, doing construction management, primarily on military bases. When I was in Afghanistan, I helped build schoolhouses and health clinics, and also had an opportunity to do some solar energy studies, both for wind, microhydro, and solar. And I also have an environmental cleanup background, working with EPA with sites that were both Superfund sites and sites that were less contaminated, called brownfields. And I think that just says it in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you so much. Jeremiah, to you. How has your professional experience prepared you for the town council?
So I've been in a leadership role in my professional life for about the last 15 years or so. I've served in roles as being like a team leader, a manager, a director. I've been in an executive type of role for the last 5 years. I've been an actual executive for about 3. And what happens is, as you go through this process, what you find out is that there's a lot of different stakeholders that are out there with a lot of different competing interests. And so bringing that federal experience to the local government in Sykesville with the Planning Commission was a bit of a shock to me, with all the different competing interests within such a small community. I mean, we have about 4,500 people in our community, but there's probably 20,000 different thoughts, or 100,000 different thoughts that are out there about how we should be moving forward. The experience that I've gained over that time is learning how to work together in a collaborative way where we can listen to different ideas and then we can come up with solutions that are middle of the road, that work for the most people that are there. Oftentimes, that does mean some people are not always happy as we go away, but there's an analytical, methodical approach to how we go about that process. I share in some of the experience. I've built a 538,000 square foot building. I was a project executive for my agency. I worked in negotiating, I worked in contracting, I've led different mediation types of exercises, I've led a lot of staff, but it's really that stakeholder engagement where we're able to bring a lot of different interests together. And here, we have residents, local business, and the town. There's a lot of different competing interests there, and we need to come together in order to have sustained future success. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Going to audience question number 3, and I'm going to add a little bit to this question just with some of the knowledge that kind of paint the picture, I guess. This came from the audience, however, I will add a little bit, and you'll understand when I get into the question. A3, and Jane, this will come to you first. Okay. Main Street has become a vibrant scene with lots of attractions for town residents. Still, walking from the primary areas of the town is difficult, especially Springfield Avenue, and we have discussed that tonight. This issue isn't going away. How would you address it, if at all? And the picture I wanted to paint is Springfield Avenue specifically. We've got homeowners with property lines, a street that you have to have a certain dimension, so there's only so much area you have to work with, and not much more, because as I think you'd mentioned earlier, you can't create any more land or travel lane at this point. So is there anything that can be done? What are your thoughts, Jane?
Right. Well, we're not the first community that has had to renovate its sidewalks and create new sidewalks and connections between streets as the sidewalks switch sides. So there's stuff to be learned from other communities. And I think we are going to learn a lot from the connectivity subcommittee. I live off of Springfield, as a matter of fact, not far from the gas station brownfields. So I understand the walkability issues, and I understand the flooding issues. So luckily, we're beginning to understand some of the fundamentals, and it can only, it is a priority. We will get there.
Okay, thank you so much. Jeremiah, same question, if you will, as it relates to difficulty walking down Springfield Avenue.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's it's a pretty tough issue. There's not a lot of great solutions to this particular problem right now. But, you know, I believe in the community, and I believe that the community can be creative, and if you put them in the right context where you actually can have an open brainstorming session, then maybe they can come up with ideas. For instance, we talked about electrical buses earlier today. If that ever became a feasible solution, could there be stops along Springfield that maybe helped with that process? Just an idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or not a good idea. I'd want to vet it out with the rest of the folks that are here. I think the Connectivity Steering Committee is a good first step. You need to have a study in order to figure out where all of our pain points are in the community, and then we go about a systematic way of being able to solve those, depending on what funding is available to us through various grants or maybe other organizations. I also think we need to be connecting with various different local groups. I talked about that a little bit earlier with, you know, maybe Boy Scouts can help us with things. In terms of this particular issue, I think that what needs to happen is we need to open it up, like I said before, about parking. Okay, let's bring the community together. We've got a lot of great minds that are here. Why don't we ask them for some help as we navigate through trying to solve this problem?
Great, thank you so much. Anna, same question to you.
Just as Jane and Jeremiah had mentioned, I would like to wait for this connectivity steering study to provide us with some options. They're the professionals, and there is a group of people that are interested, parties, that can provide us with some of their input, and take that information, bring it to the public, possibly get some grants. We don't know what we don't know. Waiting for the study is what our next step would be, and then after that, take that information and move forward.
Great, thank you so much. Mark, lastly to you.
Well, since Jeremiah's been reading your notes, I'll read his as well. There are no easy answers here. There are certain spots in this town where it's just too narrow to walk, and I agree, we're gonna have to get a study that has some suggestions, keep our eye out, ask a lot of questions. Go back to my original comment here. If we have a town council and a mayor and staff who knows what they're doing, if this was something that was easily solved, we would be talking about it because it would be done already. This is going to be a hard one. I can only give you an example of Main Street where it touches Colorama. The only way to walk is if you're a billy goat.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're going to have time for one more audience question tonight. So I want to, it's an interesting question, and it may require a little explanation on where you're coming from before you answer this question, because it's a hot point that has been mentioned tonight, at least briefly, and has been in front of the town here recently. The question coming in. January, February, we had two contentious meetings about the Sandusky property. This is the property directly behind Beck's that was mentioned earlier as parking. Dash, brew house or dance house, period. Now I hear neither is coming. How do we avoid this in the future? And I'm going to let Anna start this question now. A little background, because it was in front of the council. So I don't know if you want to provide any background on what was in front of the council, the purpose of the meetings, before you answer the question. But I also am going to allow a little more time, and I hope the rest of the candidates are okay with this avenue we're taking.
So several years ago, the town had purchased that property with the intent for economic development along with increased parking. It's a catch-22 because once you have economic development, you develop that into retail, it eats up your space, your parking spaces. So what the town wanted to do was to find either partner or find a buyer that would provide us with both an economic developed building along with the maximum amount of parking spaces. We had several bids come in, but it wasn't to the majority of the town council's liking, so it was put on hold. And then we had an opportunity come to us, and then we put it out for bid again. And that's where we had interest from a brewery, and then also the dance studio was interested in having their studio be moved there. So we opened it up to the public, which we would have to, because with any type of sale of town property, we have to open it up for bid. So unfortunately, we only had one person or one business approach us to tell us that their interest, and it was neither the brewery or the dance studio. And the business that did approach us, it wasn't what the town felt was best suited. So we closed the bid, and this is where we are now.
So then I'm going to, a little bit of history there. So now I'm going to, at least as it came from a council member, so I want to ask then the question, how can we avoid this in the future? If there is something to be avoided, in your opinion.
Like I had mentioned, any type of sale of town property needs to go out for bid. I think that we could have done the initial bid process much better than what we had. Unfortunately, back then, we had prior staff, not the staff that we had now, that wasn't able to communicate effectively what our needs were. The bid was not brought out to the public in the way that it should have been. So I think that in the future, we'll change all that.
Great, thank you so much. Sorry to put you on the spot with a little bit of history there, but I appreciate that, as I'm sure the rest of the candidates do as well. Mark, coming to you next.
Well, I sat in that next room while that meeting was going on, and you ever heard the phrase astroturfing? It's a phrase that means not really grassroots. When, you know, if people want to do this, that's a grassroots effort. Well, I happen to be surrounded by the brewery people, and that's what you call an astroturf. They were in there making plans about who would speak next. It was all orchestrated. I was sitting there, and they just ignored me, and I used that to my advantage. All right, you say this, and you say, and it was clear to me this was an organized effort to make a move for this property, and the fact that they didn't then go ahead with that tells me this was just a gambit. You know, if I can get it, I will, but I don't have any skin in the game. And again, not being a member of the council, to me, and I defer to your superior expertise, but I would say next time, maybe a little skin in the game, a little money up front to show you're sincere, rather than, we'll make a run at this, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, we'll just throw up our hands and run out the door. But I was amazed at how well orchestrated this was, but how unrealistic it was.
Great, thank you so much. Coming to you next, Jane.
Okay. Clearly, we're going to get more ideas with a better solicitation, particularly since Howard County, I think, is pretty much running out of room for development and for new businesses to establish themselves. So I think that we will find that we have a richer pool of candidates to select from. One of the things that has occurred to me is, are we sure we really want to sell that building? Are there any benefits for the city, for the town rather, to retain its ownership and use it for a multi-purpose facility, arts, dance, technology, a maker's center, a learning center? So food for thought. I'm sure there are people who are smarter than I have who have thought this over, but there's one town facility in West Virginia in Capon Bridge called the River House. And if you ever have a chance to go online and look at that facility, please do, because it's very inspirational. It's a small town like the one we have. And it's something that I think we can be inspired by. So thank you.
And one last time, what's the name of the
It's called the River House.
River House in Capon Springs, correct?
Yes, it's a multipurpose town-owned building, and it's in Capon Bridge, West Virginia.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Jeremiah, coming to you.
So thanks. with any bid process for any type of development that there is, that whole process typically takes a while. Usually longer than anyone wants it to take. That's just kind of a reality when you get into these types of projects. When I was at the public hearings, my angst was about the town, in my view at the time, and I don't know everything that happened behind the scenes, but my issue was I didn't feel like the town was doing enough to advocate for Carroll County Dance Center. But looking back at it now, I'm not sure Carroll County Dance Center would have even had a shot at being able to get that because they needed a facility by June. And in order to get it by June, there's too many processes in place in order to rehab that building in that time. And I should have probably thought about that in my role as planning commission. The other thing is that the brewery has already moved to a new location up in Eldersburg. And so if they've already moved there, then also they were trying to really move very quickly to have something done. So I think the town needs to have a process in place that it's very clear to the bidders that what this process is really going to entail. And I think we could publish something on our site that kind of walks people through that type of process. I also think that the businesses on Main Street need to hear what's going on, and there needs to be as much of a transparent dialogue as there can be. A lot of times, these types of solicitations are private because they're working through sale terms and so forth. But whatever could be told to the businesses, I think they need to be more in the loop, because a lot of these businesses were upset when the brewery didn't actually come in.
Great. Well, thank you so much, all the candidates. Great thoughtful answers. Thank you for the audience who provided questions for us today. We greatly appreciate it. That concludes the Q&A session of the program. We are now going to go into closing remarks. Each candidate will have 2 minutes of closing remarks. So without any further ado, I am going to give it right back to you, Jeremiah, to be the first candidate to close.
I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight and tuning in, whether it's now or in the future. And I am asking for your vote for town council. We have tremendous candidates. A lot of us are in alignment on a lot of the different topics that are here. The things that I think differentiate me from the other candidates. One of them is I'm a tireless advocate for my kid. My kid has long-term, long-standing disability issues, and I'm a tireless advocate for her. I'd be a tireless advocate for the town. I've worked in the federal government for almost 19 years. You have some other folks that have worked here as well. I've led large construction projects. I've led facilities maintenance at the Social Security Administration headquarters, which comprise of about 10,000 people, and in a role very similar to a town manager. I've led operations components, I've led policy implementation, I've led information technology reform, I've led emergency management response. I was the operations chief for floods, tornadoes, earthquake, large-scale electrical outages, and a number of different types of emergency management types of issues. I have my MBA. I have a Bachelor of Arts in the field of communications. I've talked a lot about communications tonight. I have a BA in that field. I've completed the Senior Fellows Program at Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government, where we work through many different case studies of many different issues that affect local, state, and federal government types of entities. I care about the town. I volunteer on the Planning Commission. I've done that for the last couple of years. And again, Jeremiah Schofield for Town Council, May 7th. If nothing else, vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah. Jane, coming to you.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank Anna Carter for serving on the council currently for all these years, for Stacy Link, for her help in exposing me to this opportunity, and Julia Betts, who is retiring from the council. They've all done a fine job and have given countless hours of their personal time. I'm older than most of the candidates here, and there's that song that says, "I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once than I ever was." No, but I'm good once as I ever was. Thank you. So we're all good candidates, and please exercise your right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Mark, coming to you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out as well. I'd like to thank the people involved in keeping us on track and filming us. We've talked about qualifications, and I could tell you again about my degrees, but I would rather do this. If you believe that Sykesville is on the right track and that we should continue as we currently are, I would ask you to vote for me on May 7th. If you do not agree with me that Sykesville is well-run and on track, I would encourage you to run for office to be the change that you think is needed. And I agree with the other candidates here. No matter what, on May 7th, even if you're not going to vote for me, get out and vote. That's the important thing. I very much believe in everyone should vote. Thank you very much. I'm Mark Dyer.
Thank you very much, Mark. Anna?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening and spending your time listening to us. I have an amazing candidate up here. At first, I was thinking, oh, I got this in the bag, but listening to everyone tonight, I'm pretty nervous. Everybody has great qualifications, has great passion. I just want to let you know about my passion for the town. As soon as I moved here, I saw this rock that I knew was just a diamond. And I knew if it had some polishing and some love, that it would be something amazing. And I'm proud to be part of that polishing process. So within the past 10 years of living here, volunteering, being on the town council, it's flourished, it's blooming, it's amazing. And I just hope that if you think that I did a great job, please re-elect me. Just like everybody else said, if you don't, just vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And before I turn this over to Mr. Harrison, I want to thank you all for showing up here today. All those at home who are watching, thank you very much. Most importantly, the candidates running are 4 candidates for the 3 council seats. And I want to take a second just to let everybody know this is the most important right we have as American citizens, to get out and vote. This was given to us, and we should not abuse it or waste it. And what I don't want to see is anybody complaining about this on social media that didn't get out to vote, it's like so many of us like to do. So exercise your right, go out and vote for any one of these fine candidates. And thanks everybody for attending, and good luck. See you on May 7th.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Listen, the town of Sykesville is very, very fortunate to have such candidates with such experience and knowledge and willingness to participate in the process. So on behalf of the Community Media Center, I want to thank you all for coming out and participating. I also want to thank our moderator for this evening, Mr. Steve Inslow. I'd also like to thank the students, our live studio audience, for coming out and participating with us, and especially those that have provided the list of questions. I think the questions were challenging, and we seek to gather answers that's going to benefit us at the polls. But before we leave, I would like to encourage everyone to learn more about the candidates by visiting the Carroll Media Center Voters Guide at carrollmediacenter.com. Okay? I would encourage you also to get informed, stay active, and participate in the process, and above all, remember to vote. Remember to vote. So again, on behalf of Carroll County Media Center, thank you all for coming and being with us this evening, and good night. Thank you.